All right, let's just hop right in. So I'm just gonna share this before we get started. You didn't need to know this, but this is my second time doing this. I think the first time I was so on fire and ready to go that I forgot that there's a whole process that goes into making this podcast. I don't just set up a camera, take out my iPad and my Bible, and just start reading. And that's what I did the first time. But I really had to rethink about it and know that I'm not going to let out anything that's mediocre, because God doesn't do anything mediocre in my life. And that kind of segues us into my one of my topics for this podcast today, and that is my testimony for 2025. So let me get my introductions done so we can get into this. Hi, my name is Arnez Butler, and welcome back to the podcast that God gave me. Talk by faith. It's gonna be like right here, you know what I'm saying? So like I said, one of my themes for this would be my testimony for 2025. It's not done yet, but there's so much going on and there's so much that I need to talk about that we should just get right into that as well. So I'm going to start off with, I taught in St. Louis Public Schools for 4 years, and first year was great, second year was amazing, third year I started to really struggle more, and then my fourth year I said, oh, this ain't the one, right? So that's kind of the exchange. Like, really the trouble started in my second year, but I was so high off my first year. I was like, oh my goodness, like I can do this. My third year was like push through the pain, and my fourth year was like, girl, the pain is overbearing. So I started teaching in 2021 at Nance Elementary. Go Knights. And I loved it there. I really did love it. I loved my leadership. I loved my coworkers. I loved the students. It was great. I've always loved the students. Let's start there. By 2023, 24, like my third year, I was like, yeah, I can't do this anymore. But I stayed because, again, at this point, I kind of liked my leadership. I still love my coworkers and I still love the children. And then by the fourth year, I was just like, I felt, I'm not going to get deep into this, I felt a little set up for the grades that I was chose to be in. They knew I wasn't ready, and that's all I'm going to say. But nevertheless, I love the children. I still gave my all up until my last day. But I knew in December 2024 that I was not coming back to the school. But I had to read that fine print, and I was going to owe the school district $3,000, the school board $3,000 if I quit. They wasn't getting that money. Thank you. So I stayed until the last month. And for most teachers, they know they don't have a job during the summer. So I saved up the money that I had, paid on my car up until August. And then I was like, I'm just going to use the whole summer to find a job. Like, that was my goal. And I was going to use my car to Uber or DoorDash or whatever I need to do to make money. So come April, this is where we're going to get personal to things that you just didn't know about me. But come April, I was invited to a birthday party. And so, girl, if you're watching this, I'm not blaming you. I'm blaming myself for having so much trust in who I am and being around things that I knew that I used to struggle with. But I was invited to a birthday party. I was really excited because it was a murder mystery. If you know anything about me, I've had a murder mystery party. I love murder mysteries. I love TV shows that have to do with crime and police officers, all that stuff. So I'm like, oh yeah, I'm down, right? And then I got the flyer and it said bring your own bottle. I was like, well, I know I'm not going to drink. Like, I've been 2 years strong. Like, I'm going to bring juice and just have a good time. So I get there. And I knew that I was struggling with a few things. I was struggling at my job because I didn't like it. I told you I wanted to leave in December, but I'm still there in April, and I was just not feeling it. So I didn't like my job. My home life, my personal life was not the greatest. I wasn't really dependent on God like I wanted to because I let the stress get to me. And then I also was supposed to graduate in May of 2025, but I was so stressed out with school that I could not focus on my paper, and it was just so much going on, and everything just didn't seem like it was going right. So I got to the party, and alcohol is there, and that's something that I struggled with a lot. Like, I was on the brink of alcoholism years ago, so I stayed away from alcohol for 2 years until that night. I decided, I'll just take one shot, I'll just do this, I'll just do that, and I just kept pushing my limit. So I drank that night. I was not drunk. I did feel some things, but I was not drunk. And so I was like, man, I need to leave this place because it's getting late, and I wanted to just stop drinking. I was like, I obviously have no self-control, like, like I did back in the day. That's why I stopped drinking, because I didn't have self-control. I didn't know when to stop. And so I was like, I still don't have self-control in this area, so I need to go home. So I left. I was fine all the way home. My best friend called to check on me. I was okay. When I got home, I was pulling up into the driveway, and I was like, oh my goodness, like my best friend's probably wondering if I made it home safely. So I picked up my phone to text my best friend while the car was still in motion. I was going maybe like 10 miles per hour because I was literally pulling in front of my house. And so when I picked up my phone, with my right hand, my left hand did this, and I hit a relative's car. So, when it happened, I went straight inside, told her what happened, explained the whole situation. She had one dent on her car, but my entire right side was dented in and scratched up. So I just knew, like, the Lord was dealing with me, because he was like, this is what you named God's car. This is the car that you sanctified for me, and you've driven this car to go places you weren't supposed to be going, doing things you wasn't supposed to be doing. And at this point, like, you lost focus of the things that I blessed you with, so it's time to get you refocused. So I got into that accident. Mind you, on the way home, I'm praying like, God, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. And God's like, I forgive you, but there's consequences to your actions. So that's how the first damage happened. I told my insurance company, didn't hide nothing, told my parents everything, didn't hide a thing. And then I let them know that I was driving distracted. I hit a car. So now it's the end of the school year. Is about May now, and I've saved up the money. I paid on my car even though it had the damage. I was like, I'm just gonna get it fixed. I got $1,000 deductible, I'll just go get it fixed. And so I was waiting for my last check to come in. So this is after school is ended. We're in June now. I'm waiting for the last check to come in so that I can pay for the damage on my door. And so I went to go pick up my friend who was still currently working, and she was taking a little minute to come out of her house. So I was like, okay, let me just move up towards these empty parking spaces so I'm not blocking nobody in. So I did that. I stopped, I parked, and I'm guessing one of her neighbors they were in our car for a little minute as well, and they didn't look behind them, because at first I wasn't behind them, but then I moved a little bit. They didn't look behind them when it was backing out, so they backed out into my car, and they did it in the back left door all the way in. And so now I have my entire right side messed up, and now the back left door is dented in. Yeah, so I told my insurance company again, took pictures. They said, take it into the collision place. You still got the $1,000 deductible, and we'll pay the rest. So I took it in. They did what they needed to do. My insurance company sent me the money to get it fixed, and then they turned around and said, actually no, we're gonna total the car, so we're gonna send the rest of the money, which was like $6,000 more, to Honda, and just start paying off your car. And I'm like, okay, so altogether they gave me $11,000. I still owed $12,000 on the car, right? And then since I didn't have a job, then they gave me the very first check. I was using that check to pay off bills until my last paycheck from my job came, and then I was going to make up the difference with that paycheck. And they was like, no girl, you need to pay this car off immediately. So now I'm like, I just used hundreds, if not over $1,000 to pay on a car that's now totaled up until August. So now I don't have to worry about the car note, but I also don't have a car. So there goes my Ubering and my DoorDash, right? So I'm going to quickly get through these last couple parts, but it was a week before the conference, the international conference that we have in July. And I was like, okay, Lord, like I'm believing in some things. So we had a key shaking part of service, and I was like, God, and God prompted me to say this because I wouldn't have said it in this way. God, I need a car, a job, and one more thing in that order. I need a car, a job, and one more thing in that order. And I remember when it came out of my mouth, I'm like, a car before a job is crazy, because how am I gonna pay for that car, right? But I was believing in what the Lord was trying to tell me, right? And so I was like, okay, it came out my mouth that way, and that's how it's gonna be, right? So I shook my keys on it, and then the next week was the conference in July. And so in that conference, one of the speakers said, I still can't find the clip, but I'm gonna look. One of the speakers said, by next Wednesday, you're gonna get what you need. And I'm like, okay. I was like, okay, maybe I'll get a job, because in my head I forgot what order I said it in. So I'm like, okay, cool. So we go through that whole week, and I'm just thinking like, okay, I need to just go to the Honda dealership where I got my old car and see like what I can do in the future, because I knew I didn't have the money, because I used everything to pay off try to pay off as much as I could on the other car. And so I'm just like, you know what, let me just see what I can do. Like, I'm not going in there for a car, I'm just going in there to get an answer from all my questions. So Monday I wanted to go, couldn't go because I wanted my dad to come with me, because I have this whole thing of sometimes if they see that you're by yourself, they try to play you. So we ended up going on Wednesday. And so we went in, and I'm just like, hey, what can I do? And it was like, well, looking at your past history, you will always pay your bill on time. We never have to worry about chasing you down. You were always early, if not on time, with your bills. You always like came in when it was time for your car to be worked on. Like, we're not worried about you or anything like that. And they say, matter of fact, we can get you test driving some cars, and you could leave here today with a car with 0 down. And I'm like, okay. So I test drove a car that was just like my other one, but newer. It was all red and it was cute, but it wasn't me. And then I've always said I wanted an SUV, so they put me in an HRV, a Honda HRV, and it was an older model. It didn't have CarPlay. You know anything about me, you know I love music, I love CarPlay. And so I was just like, you know what, even though it's not exactly what I wanted, I remember when my insurance person told me, you might not get the exact car that you want, but you're going to leave with a car. And I was like, okay, amen, I received that. So I was like, no, this is not exactly the car that I want, but I'm still coming in with $0 down and leaving with a car. So I want to get the SUV like I want, because that's the style that I want. So I told them I wanted that. My dad was like, you want this car? And then the salesperson was like, you want this car? And like, the other car is newer but more features. And I'm like, I've had a Honda Accord for years. Like, it's great, I love it, but I want to start getting to them big cars. You know what I'm saying? Big dog. Sorry, the Gen Z slipped out for a second. But so that's the car I ended up going with. It's 2019 HRV Honda, and it's real nice. I love it. So that's the car that I left with. And so boom, one thing is down. I got my car. Now I'm like, okay, Lord, I don't have to pay for another 2 months, because my first bill was due in September. So I said, I don't gotta pay for another 2 months. So it's time to get locked in. It's time for me to find a job, because I know at least it takes at least 2 weeks for your first paycheck to hit in a real career, right? So my academic instructional coach called me and was like, hey, there's this job posting for St. Louis Public School recruiter that I think you'd be perfect for. Can you go apply for that? I'm like, yeah, girl, I got you. So I applied for it. I'm thanking her like, thank you so much for even thinking about me. I get to the interview. I see, well, the first interview was a video. So I passed the first round. There's 4 rounds, by the way. I passed the first round with the video. Then the second round is going in for an interview. I walk in, I see my old coworker who was a first grade teacher when I was a 5th grade teacher. And I'm like, oh, look at God. One of my coworkers is in here. And he's like, oh my goodness, Miss Butler. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Man, I'm not going to say his name. But I was like, okay, I got this in the bag. So second interview got through. Now I'm in the third interview, which is where we do like mock scenarios of like recruiting at college fairs and things like that. And I thought I did really, really good. They're like, oh, okay, I liked how you handled this. I like how you handled this. I like how you handled this. I did not make it to the 4th round. And so I felt like God was either preparing me, or that was like the counterfeit job that I was hoping and praying for. And I was fasting for that as well. So I was like, okay, it's time to lock in. So during the whole summer, after I got that car, I started door dashing immediately, like the next day. I started fasting and praying, and I was paying my tithes on DoorDash. And anything on DoorDash does not pay as much as Uber. So I wasn't making that much money, to be honest. I was making maybe like 16 an hour. I went from making like 27 an hour to 16 an hour. So that was a big change in my life. But even though there were some bills that I couldn't pay on time, I still was going to tithe. I still was going to fast and pray. I still was going to tithe on that itty bitty money. I made $120 that day. I'm going to pay my $12 tithes. Thank you. So that was my plan, and that's how I feel like I got blessed with what I had, because I knew what to do over few, and God is now blessing me over many things. So I got desperate, y'all. DoorDash wasn't working, a lot of stuff wasn't working, and it's August now. And the school year's about to start, and I knew I was going to be at St. Louis Public Schools. I threw that out my brain. So I started applying everywhere, Costco, Walmart, any place that I could think where I could use my skills. It was looking more like a receptionist type position, or something where I could use my skills as a teacher that it would translate over. So I'm applying to all these jobs. I'm fasting and praying. I'm seeking the Lord real bad. And he's like, Arnez, you're going to get what you need on Friday. I heard it's clear as day. I'm like, okay, so Friday. So I start applying to 10 jobs that week. I applied to 10 jobs that week. I said, one of these jobs going to hit and call me back and I'm going to have an interview because he said I'm going to get what I need on Friday. Come Friday, I ain't hear from nobody. I'm door dashing, not thinking nothing about it. And I get a call from a coworker and she's like, hey girl, do you have a job yet? And I was like, no, I'm still looking. I applied to like 10 jobs this week. She's like, okay, great. That's amazing because I have a job that someone called me about, but I already have my contract with St. Louis Public School signed. So I told them you were available. And I was like, oh, really? And she was like, yeah, I still work at a daycare. I'm not sure what position yet, but like it's going to be more administration because that's what you want. You don't want to be in the classroom. I was like, yeah, you're right. So she said, send me your resume and I'll send it to them. So girl, I pulled over, sent that resume as quickly as possible because DoorDash is great or whatever. This ain't my job. They can replace me as they probably have by now. So I sent in a resume and she's like, cool, they'll probably be reaching out to you within the next like couple days. I'm like, cool, great. I'll give it to Monday. So I'm fasting and praying again. And the Lord is like, you're going to get what you need on Friday again. So the next Friday. And I'm like, okay. So I go throughout the week thinking I'm going to hear something from the other 10 jobs. I really didn't think nothing about my old coworker, aka my cousin, because we got the same last name, saying anything about the other job position because that would be the second person from St. Louis Public Schools that told me something about a job position and it didn't go through. That's why I said the first one was a counterfeit, right? So I'm just thinking, okay, one of these jobs, Walmart, Costco, gonna reach out to me. I know they are. So it's Friday again. I'm door dashing again. Not thinking about nothing. Forgot everything the Lord had told me. I promise you, if this was back in biblical times and God had made me a book and made me a character or a person in the Bible, my nickname would be the forgetful one because I do forget a lot. So I get a call from my supervisor now. And, well, you know how the story's gonna end now, but I get a call from my supervisor and she's like, hey, we looked at your resume, we loved what we saw and we want you to come in for an interview. And I'm like, okay, great, let me do that. So then we go through, they send me an email, I reply to it, let them know what days I'm free. I'm really free every day, but I can't make it seem like I'm not in demand, you know what I'm saying? So the whole weekend I didn't hear from them. And then it's Monday and I reached out to them like, hey, I haven't heard anything, like, is there anything that you want me to do? Is there an interview? Mind you, the whole weekend I was preparing for the interview. I might not have heard nothing, but the Lord told me to start studying about their daycare. So they was like, yeah, you come in today. And I'm like, cool, I'm coming in today. So I came in early. My interview was at 1 p.m. I think I got in at like 1:40 something. And they started me the moment I walked in. I sat down there like, can you pray us in? And this is the order of what's going to go. Okay, start praying. I'm like, the Lord been building me up for this. If you know anything about me, I work the altar at my church for youth Sundays. I'm in an intercessory group at church. I said, the Lord been preparing me for this. I know how to bring the heavens down on the spot. And, also Children's Generation is preparing me for that too, because they be calling me every time. It's like, let me see who I want to pray our next. And I'll be like, okay, thanks. So I was prepared. I was very comfortable. I prayed in and I'm looking as I'm praying a little bit. Don't judge me. I'm looking as I'm praying a little bit and they like, they're praying like this, like, okay. And so the interview went very well. And so the next day I got a job offer and I took it. I took an hour to read over everything, make sure it aligned with who I was, because it is a Lutheran church and I grew up Pentecostal. I'm not really big on denominations, but I had to still make sure that everything that they believed in was stuff that I was comfortable with, and I was. So I accepted a job offer. Yay! So now I got my car, I got my job in the order. And the third thing we still waiting on, but if I ever do a video with an update, you know what it's about, right? And that's going very well. I had a meeting the other day. The third thing is going amazing. So sorry, I'm trying not to cry because it's been a lot going on, but we just gonna drive past that too. Now, it's been a while since I made a podcast, and I want to get into why it's been a while. I'm crying about the third thing, not about why I've been gone, but on Sunday I was reminded on why it's been a while since I did my podcast, and that's because I was distracted. The moment the Lord spoke to me and said distracted, I said, ooh. And he's saying, you've forgotten who I made you to be and who I am. And I'm like, ooh, there go that forgetful word. So I knew that was the Lord speaking. I was like, okay. So I thought about it a little bit. And I prayed on it. I was like, okay, it's time for me to get back into my post. It's time for me to get back into who I'm supposed to be in the Lord. And then the Lord placed on me on Sunday after the service. I went to sleep. I woke up and the Lord placed on me while I was talking to him the story of Samson. And I know you're thinking about Samson, like, how does that go along with that? Well, Samson was distracted. If you could think about his story and think about how he was consecrated in his mother's womb as a Nazarite. So let's get our Bibles out, right? Concordia, thank you for the Bible case. Let's get into our Bibles, right? Let's go to Judges. And we're talking about his mother who was the wife of Manoah. She was barren. And the Lord appeared to her as an angel. And I'm just going to skip down to the part where she said, where the angel told her she was going to conceive and bear a son. And that she wasn't allowed to have wine or strong drink or eat any unclean thing. And I want to skip down to verse 5 where it says, for the child shall be a Nazarite unto God from the womb. So he was consecrated from the womb, right? But if you know anything about Samson's story, you know he didn't take that vow very well. So let me go and read what the vow is. So it's a biblical commitment to dedicate oneself to God, which involves abstaining from wine and grape products, not cutting one's hair, and not coming into contact with the dead. So we know many things about Samson, right? We know that he was a judge. We know that he was a Nazarite. We know that he had long hair and he was very strong, a gift that he got from the Lord, right? So one thing I want to say is he broke one of the vows pretty early on in his story, with him going into the lion's carcass and eating the honey. And another thing I want to point out is that he also dealt with pride a lot, and I feel like I deal with that as well. Like, I feel like there's certain characters to the story that I can relate to at different times in my life, and that's why I love studying the Bible. But he dealt with pride because he's like, after he knew that he broke the vow as a Nazarite, because he knew he wasn't supposed to come in contact with the dead, not even your family if they die. He was like, oh, I bet nobody can guess where I got this from. Dips his hands in it, makes a riddle for people. And then he had so much pride that he gave the answer to someone and they went and told them. And then they ended up guessing it. And he was like, how did they figure this out? But I digress. I'm not getting too deep into that. So he broke one vow already and he was full of pride. Now he has this thing for Philistine women. The women from Philistine. He had a thing for them. He marries one and then he falls in love with another one whose name was Delilah. And Delilah, I'm just going to quickly go through this. Delilah proved to this man more than once that she's untrustworthy, but he just kept trusting her. Even though every time she would ask him, what's your weakness? He would give her something that's false, and then she would show that she's going to break his trust. And so he gets to a point where she's just like, you don't love me, and she starts nagging him, and then finally he just gives in and tells her, cut my hair. Second vow of a Nazarite. You're not supposed to cut your hair. So he done broke already 2 vows, and I'm sure he probably did drink some wine or some grape products. There ain't no way you doing all this sober, sir. But I'm gonna get into that. I'm gonna study that a little bit, and then I'll put that up there if he broke that vow as well. But there's so much that Samson could have accomplished in his walk. Obviously, the call in his life was strong from even when he was in the womb, because outside of the angel saying that he was going to be a Nazarite, it also says that he was going to deliver Israel out of the hands of the Philistines. So he was not just going to be a strong, mighty man of God who was a Nazarite, but he also was going to lead his people out of being conquered by the Philistines. So it's like he had this big calling on his life, but I feel like what it was is he was looking at the gift and he was worshiping the gift more than he was worshiping the Lord, because God made him strong to the point where there was no one that could really defeat him. And I think when you get to the high point, if you are not humble enough to take it, you're going to see that gift and you're going to run with it and you're going to take it and think that it's yours, but it's really the Lord's. So that's what he did, and he had too much faith in himself and his own flesh that he forgot he's supposed to be dependent on the Lord for everything that he had. So the Lord did what he had to do. He gave him over to the things of his desire, like a reprobate mind in Romans 1. And he allowed for Samson to put himself into a position where he couldn't get out of it, right? Without the help of the Lord. So he tells Delilah it's in his hair. His hair gets cut off. He loses his strength, and now he has been captured. And so he's chained up. He's at this feast with the Philistines, and he has to call out to the Lord one more time. God, just give me one more chance to do what you called me to do. All these Philistines are here. Just give me one more chance to get my strength back. And the Lord was like, okay, because God is merciful. He's love. He's going to forgive you. I mean, there's also still consequences, because even though he gave him that one last shot, he still had to die with all the other Philistines that were in the building with him. And he killed more Philistines in that moment than he ever did with all his strength in the world that he had, going through killing thousands of people. So it's just a reminder to me that God is merciful. He is love, but with every decision you make, there's a consequence. And I kind of talked about that in my testimony for 2025, but I love that the Lord used Samson to talk to me, because that's one of the characters I never could really relate to. But sometimes you could be full of so much pride that you can't ask for help like you're supposed to, and sometimes you could be so distracted that you aren't doing what you're supposed to be doing. He's living life to please Delilah when he was supposed to be rescuing his people. He's living life to please his flesh when he's supposed to be glorifying God with his body. And so that's kind of where I felt like I was at this weekend. I'm so focused on this new job, this new car, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? How am I going to fulfill the third thing I asked the Lord to do? And it's like, you're not doing nothing. God has been showing you since the beginning of 2025, since your first car wreck, that he's in control, Arnez. There's nothing that you are doing. There's nothing I can do. And so that's just a reminder that I don't do anything for my own strength. I don't do anything for my own wisdom like Samson did as a judge, or like he did as a strong person that was trying to fight off the Philistines. He didn't do all of that because he exercised every day, because he ate right every day. He probably did, and he was eating honey out of a dead carcass. That ain't healthy. But it was never anything by his own strength. Never anything I do is by my own strength. It's only by the strength of the Lord. And so that's what today's second topic is. Do everything in the strength of the Lord. Don't get distracted. Don't get full with pride. And God is going to bring you back. Don't ever think that you're ever too far gone for God to come and save you and come and love you and still continue to work through you. So I'm going to say goodbye, because I have work to go to and some things to do this morning. But I love you all. Thank you for listening. And I'll see you next week, because we're working on consistency. All right, bye.